Every now and then I have to share some slightly uncomfortable but necessary advice of what works and what doesn't to pass job interviews. Here's a little question for you. Do you stand a chance to pass your upcoming job interview? Because if the answer is something like, no, not really, but anyway, I feel like I'm going to try it anyway, the outcome is quite predictable. And I'm working with thousands of candidates applying for high-performing jobs, primarily with FANGs, by the way. So basically my suggestion to you is that if you feel like you're not ready for your upcoming job interview, either cancel it altogether, or if not, try to postpone it. Because the outcome, if you go into an interview half prepared or, feeling like you're not ready for it, the outcome is very predictable. Right? The good news is that rescheduling interviews, even final interview rounds, and even on short notice, is more common than most candidates think. So if you feel like you'd benefit from getting more time to, maybe prepare it better, then definitely go that way. Next thing I'd like to talk about here is with a very common misconception about building interviewing skills and interviewing well. Many candidates assume that interviewing well is about working smart and being smart during job interviews. In my experience, building interviewing skills is about working harder, not smarter. Okay, and I could give you some examples here. It's common that I work with candidates, even with candidates who know the questions they're going to get asked during their final interview rounds, to do a dozen coaching sessions with them already knowing the questions they're going to get asked. In my experience, the number one thing that candidates underestimate about job interviews is the time it takes to prepare them. So if you want to seriously optimize your chances to pass job interviews, try to employ a work harder, not smarter type of approach. Of course, these not all roles are the same, and maybe if you're preparing for a director of a role with Netflix, maybe you have, to do well with your interviewing skills and to be smarter than, when compared to other types of roles. But even then, and by the way, I did help a director with Netflix, even then, you'll be surprised how much interest the candidate has in taking the interview seriously versus, a candidate who can be exceptionally talented and skilled within that primary area of expertise, with that subject matter expert, but they assume that would be enough to pass their job interviews. Okay, and the last thing I want to talk about here is about picking your fights carefully, picking your interviews carefully. And what I observed over time is that there is a tendency for candidates to be overly optimistic with respect to their chances of passing interviews, primarily with FANGs. And the scenario is something like this. You really need a job. Okay, either because you're going to lose your job, either because you've already lost it, and you feel like putting all your eggs in one basket, that is a FANG application, is a good way to motivate yourself and to, build your interviewing skills and to basically pass your interview. Or another very common approach is from candidates who have a CV that is not ready for a FANG role. What happens here is that if you put your all eggs in one basket, in my experience, this would rarely end well. Okay, what I would recommend instead would be to employ an approach of having a backup strategy. A backup strategy refers to securing a job offer with a less interesting company, either by, applying for that less interesting company, but ideally lining up multiple job interviews. And then that would allow you to dream, so to speak, about high-performing companies or high-performing roles as well. And you'll be surprised the types of candidates who employ these things. If you remember the director at Netflix I talked about earlier, He actually got laid off from Google, but he didn't apply at Netflix. He applied with less interesting companies. I think it was with Expedia that he got a job offer with. And then, after he had secured that job offer, he went on in the interview process with Netflix and, he ultimately passed it. But long story short, if you want the closest it gets to working smarter, not harder, that's with your approach of optimizing your chances to land a job offer from your choice of applications. So be selective in the types of battles you pick, because in reality most candidates would greatly benefit from a backup strategy rather than again going all in with a FANG application. So I hope you found this useful, and thank you very much for watching.